Ever feel like you're just trying to stay afloat in this
Yeah.
constant flood of information, like you're being pulled everywhere at once?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge challenge today, finding focus, figuring out what's actually important.
Yeah, and maybe even using that information somehow to, make real changes in your life for the better.
Well, it's funny you say that because these very problems, distraction, information overload, they're not new. Ancient wisdom traditions, like Buddhism, have been tackling this for, well, millennia.
And offering insights that are still incredibly relevant. That's what we're diving into today.
Exactly. We've got a set of sources here looking at explanations of a really key Buddhist text, the Amitabha Sutra, guided by some very respected teachers, Master Wuyi, Master Ching Kung.
Okay. And our goal with this deep dive
is basically to unpack the core ideas from these teachings, look at the roadblocks people hit then and now, and explore this specific method they describe that promises, well, frankly, astonishing results.
So we're digging through this for you, the listener, pulling out the key insights to help make sense of these profound teachings.
Yeah, we'll start with the Buddha's kind of foundational blueprint, then get into the things that trip us up, explore this really mind-bending idea about how reality works.
Understand what recollecting the three jewels really means.
Right, beyond just chanting. And then focus on this unique path to enlightenment that's presented as incredibly fast and certain.
Okay, let's get started. The foundations. Where do these sources point us first? What's the Buddha's blueprint?
They bring up something called the 37 Aids to Enlightenment. Now, the number itself isn't the main thing to get hung up on initially.
Okay.
The key takeaway is that these are presented as the universal fundamental guidelines the Buddha himself laid out for awakening.
So, not tied to just one specific school of Buddhism, more like an underlying framework for everyone?
Precisely. They're the bedrock. Different traditions might emphasize different aspects or use different practices, like the 4 foundations of mindfulness can be viewed differently, but they all fall under this larger umbrella of the 37 Aids.
And the sources call out specific examples within that, like the 7 factors of enlightenment and the Eightfold Path?
Yes, those are well-known sets that are part of these 37, and what's really practical here is that within those 7 factors, 6 of them are specifically described as remedies.
Remedies for what?
For the common obstacles that practitioners run into when they actually try to, sit down and cultivate their minds.
Ah, the practical struggles. What are the main ones they mention?
2 big ones, kind of polar opposites. First is sloth and torpor, or hunchen in Chinese. It's that mental heaviness, drowsiness, sinking feeling.
Like when you try to meditate and just feel overwhelmingly sleepy?
Exactly that. You lack energy, focus just dips. The mind feels dull.
Very relatable. What's the other one?
The opposite. Restlessness, or diao-jian. This is the agitated mind, thoughts jumping all over the place, impossible to settle down. The monkey mind idea.
Right. And I liked how the sources clarified something here. People often think meditation causes restlessness. My mind was fine until I sat down. Now it's racing.
Yes. And the teaching corrects that. It says sitting quietly doesn't create the agitation. It just reveals the constant mental chatter that's already there all the time.
Ah, so you're just noticing it because you've stopped distracting yourself.
Precisely. The practice isn't the problem. It's showing you the mind's current state. And the good news, as mentioned, is the other factors within those 7 factors of enlightenment offer ways to work with both the sinking and the racing mind. How to find that balance.
Okay, that makes sense. Which leads us, I think, to a really central, maybe even challenging concept in these teachings.
Yes, perhaps the most profound one. Everything in the world, within and beyond, arises from the mind or thought. Or, yeki, ikkongsen singingsheng.
Wow. Everything. That's a huge statement.
It is, and according to these texts, it's not just philosophy, it's the actual mechanism of reality. It applies to the universe, life itself, all the different realms of existence, even the Pure Lands, like Sukhavati.
So what you focus your mind on, that's what manifests.
With enough focused intention, yes. The source puts it bluntly regarding the ultimate goal. Thinking of Buddha is the cause. Becoming Buddha is the effect. Nian fo xian, jing fo xigum.
Okay, but then the obvious question comes up, right? I think about good things. I've even thought about Buddha. Why haven't I become a Buddha yet? Or seen huge results?
Exactly. If it were that simple, we'd all be enlightened. The sources explain the issue is that the thought is usually not properly aligned with both theory and method, meaning it's not pure focused thought. It's what they call scattered thought, singing. It's mixed up with all the mental stuff, greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, worry, doubt. All the afflictions, 贪清灯.
So the signal's full of noise. The pollution weakens the power.
That's a good way to put it. If your thought is a jumble of aspiration mixed with everyday anxieties or desires, the result is also jumbled and weak. So the key isn't just thinking, it's focused thought, swansing.
Single-minded focus.
Yes. Thinking without mixing in other things. And they make a really sharp point. This includes not just worldly concerns, but potentially setting aside other spiritual practices.
Even good ones.
If they interfere with your main focus. Trying to juggle too many methods, the idea is, scatters your mental power, your zinli.
That's counterintuitive for some, maybe. That even spiritual seeking could be a distraction if it breaks that focused intent.
It's about concentrating your energy. They use a pretty stark example. People who obsessively worry about aging or getting sick or dying often seem to manifest those things more quickly.
Because their mind is so intensely focused on it.
Right. The principle works both ways, so apply it positively. Focused, pure thought on Buddha leads toward Buddhahood.
Okay. This feels like a good transition to another core practice discussed. Recollecting the three jewels, Nyan Sanmyo, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The sources really emphasize this is way more than just saying the words.
Absolutely. They dive deep into the true meaning. It's not about external ritual so much as cultivating an internal state, an inner reality.
So what are the inner meanings? Let's break them down. The Buddha jewel.
Buddha represents awareness, right? Being awake, clear, not deluded, jure-obumi. When you see a statue or image of the Buddha, it's meant as a reminder of your own inherent potential for awareness. So recollecting Buddha is actually about tapping into your capacity to be aware.
Okay, not just worshiping a figure, but awakening something within. What about the Dharma jewel?
Dharma represents right understanding, Zheng, having correct knowledge, correct views,
No.
The Buddha's teachings are the blueprint for understanding reality correctly.
How does that break down?
The sources mention 4 aspects: the teaching itself, the texts, the words, the theory, the underlying principles, the practice, how you apply it in life, and the realization, the actual benefit you get. The whole point is to use the Dharma to transform confusion into wisdom in your daily actions and thoughts.
And the third jewel, Sangha.
Sangha represents purity and harmony. It's about cultivating a clear, undefiled mind, and living harmoniously. The community, especially the enlightened sages, embodies this ideal state.
So, putting it all together, truly recollecting the three jewels means actively cultivating awareness,
right,
understanding, and purity within yourself in your actual life.
Exactly. And the sources say this brings present benefits right here, right now. You feel less confused, your views become more accurate, your mind gets purer, less easily disturbed by the chaos around you.
Which leads to a really important question they raise. If this is true, why do so many people who practice Buddhism still feel, well, confused, maybe holding incorrect views or feeling mentally polluted?
Yes, the sources tackle this directly. They suggest that maybe the practice is superficial, that people might still be operating from delusion, wrong views, and a polluted mind, misjing, in their day-to-day lives.
Like learning Buddha but being muddled, hutususfo.
Precisely. They aren't fully integrating awareness, right understanding, and purity into their being. True practice means these qualities should be noticeably growing in you day by day. The recollection, meaning, has to come from the focused mind, the heart's intention, not just the mouth.
That really shifts the perspective. It's an ongoing internal cultivation. Okay, let's move to the specific path these texts focus on. The Pure Land teachings. How does this connect?
This path is presented as a unique, highly focused application of these principles. It centers on Amitabha Buddha and his Pure Land, called Sukhavati, the land of ultimate bliss.
Amitabha, his name is significant, right?
Extremely. Amitabha Mitsuo means immeasurable light, Wuliang Guang, symbolizing infinite space, and immeasurable life, Wuliang Shou, symbolizing endless time. Together, it encompasses everything, all of reality.
And the core practice involves focusing on this name.
Yes, focused recitation or contemplation of Amitabha Buddha. The sources highlight that this practice is particularly effective at removing doubt, which they pinpoint as a major obstacle.
How so?
They use a powerful contrast. Imagine an illiterate old woman, maybe doesn't know complex doctrines, but she just sincerely, wholeheartedly recites Amitabha's name with unwavering faith. She might achieve incredible results, even rebirth in Sukhavati.
Okay.
Now contrast her with a highly intelligent, educated person who is full of questions, intellectual doubts, analyzing everything. Does this really work? How can it be so simple? That doubt scatters the mind, blocks the connection. The simple, sincere focus is more powerful than intellectual understanding clouded by doubt.
Sincerity and focus over intellectual doubt.
Got it.
Got it. Now here comes the part that sounds, well, incredible. The speed associated with this path.
Right. The sources point to a detail in the Amitabha Sutra itself. It says Amitabha achieved his own Buddhahood only 10 kalpas ago. Yujin Shije.
10 kalpas. And how long is a kalpa, roughly?
It's an immense, almost unimaginable span of time, but the contrast is the key.
Because the usual time frame mentioned for becoming a Buddha through other paths
is 3 great asankhya kalpas, Sandasankhya. And asankhya is a number so vast. The sources describe it like 1, followed by maybe 170 zeros or some astronomical figure, and you need 3 of those immense periods.
3 unfathomably long periods versus just 10 kalpas. That's the difference is staggering. It makes you ask, why? How can attainment in Sukhavati be so incredibly fast?
The sources lay out several key reasons based on the nature of Sukhavati itself. First, it's an environment with no retrogression. Megli tu yuan.
Meaning you can't slide backwards.
Exactly. In our world, it's so easy to make progress and then fall back due to negative influences, distractions, temptations, or just losing motivation. Sukhavati is specifically designed so that those conditions for backsliding simply don't exist. It's all supportive.
Okay, an optimized environment. What else?
Second, the teachers and companions are literally the best possible. Amitabha Buddha himself is the main teacher. And your fellow students, your companions, Zushang Shenren, are described as bodhisattvas, who have reached the stage of equal enlightenment.
Equal enlightenment. That's just one step below being a fully realized Buddha.
Correct. Imagine everyone around you is practically a Buddha in waiting. The inspiration, the guidance, the collective energy, it would be transformative.
Absolutely. That alone would accelerate things immensely. Any other reasons?
Yes. Third, constant exposure to the Dharma. The sutra describes how even the sounds in Sukhavati, the wind, the water, birdsong, are actually manifestations of Amitabha's compassionate vows, constantly teaching the Dharma. You're immersed in profound teachings, 247, effortlessly.
Wow. So perfect environment, highest level teachers and peers, and nonstop Dharma teaching.
Yeah, okay, I can see how that combination would dramatically accelerate progress towards Buddhahood.
And this leads to probably the most unique and powerful promise of this path. Anyone born in Sukhavati achieves non-retrogression abhibhas. We mentioned the 3 types. Non-retrogression in position, status, practice method, and thought. Mind free from falling back into afflictions.
Right. And Master Wuyi's interpretation, which the sources emphasize, is quite radical. He says this isn't just any non-retrogression, it's perfect. 3 non-retrogressions. Yuan Zhang San Butui.
Perfect, meaning?
Meaning the kind of non-retrogression typically associated only with those incredibly advanced bodhisattvas at the equal enlightenment stage.
Okay, wait. So you're saying an ordinary person, someone still carrying their, mental baggage, their afflictions, if they get reborn in Sukhavati, they instantly attain the non-retrogression status of a near Buddha.
That's the teaching, yes. It's crucial to understand how. It's not because they suddenly purified everything before going.
Yeah.
It happens through the sheer power of Amitabha Buddha's fundamental vows. Amituof Banyanda Jishi. His vows essentially boost you to that level upon arrival.
And this is related to the term bearing karma rebirth. Dai Ye Ging.
Exactly. You don't have to eliminate all your negative karma first. You carry your existing karma with you, but its effects are suppressed or transformed by Amitabha's power and the environment, allowing you to function at that non-retrogressing level.
That sounds incredibly merciful and much more accessible than trying to purify everything perfectly here and now.
Which is why this path is often described using the analogy of a horizontal exit from the 3 realms, Hengchu Sanji.
As opposed to
the standard vertical exit. Think of the vertical exit like climbing a very tall, difficult ladder rung by rung. You have to cultivate deep meditation states, purify afflictions step by step, overcome rebirth in lower realms, then desire realms, then form realms. It's a long, arduous climb requiring immense personal effort and skill.
And the horizontal exit
is like getting on a ferry powered by Amitabha. It relies on Amitabha's reception, Folejayim. Because of your faith, aspiration, and focused practice, Amitabha comes at the end of your life here to welcome you, and you're instantly transported across the sea of suffering horizontally, bypassing many of those difficult vertical steps. It's presented as an easier, faster way out of the cycle.
And once you arrive in Sukhavati, what's the status then?
You become what's called one lifetime away from Buddhahood. Yishangbichu. Enlightenment is guaranteed within that single lifetime in the Pure Land, so it's a path offering achievement within this lifetime, Dangshangchengju, in the sense of definitively leaving the cycle of suffering.
The sources even use a striking phrase, an undying Dharma, Gusengdi Fi Men. What's that about?
It refers to the nature of the transition. The teaching suggests you don't actually die in the conventional sense and then get reborn. Instead, you transition while alive into a golden lotus flower in Sukhavati.
While alive?
Yes. You leave your physical body behind, but your consciousness, carried by Amitabha's light, manifests within the lotus, transforming into a new supreme golden body like Amitabha's. So you arrive alive in a transformed state. No death experience as we usually think of it.
That is truly remarkable. So, once you're there, what's life like? The sources mention 4 lands, 9 grades. Does that mean there are still levels and separation?
There are distinctions, yes, reflecting the depth of one's practice before arriving. But Master Wuyi's key insight, highlighted in the sources, is their circular integration. Yuan Rong. This is crucial.
Circular integration meaning?
Unlike our world where, say, ordinary people and enlightened saints live in very different spheres, in Sukhavati, even if you were born in the lowest grade of the lowest land, the common and sage dwelling land, you are still constantly in the physical presence of Amitabha and all the highest bodhisattvas.
So there's no real separation. Even if you start at a lower level, your environment is effectively the highest level.
Exactly. It's like the idea of one birth leads to all births. Your immediate surroundings, teachers, companions are all of the highest caliber, regardless of your individual starting point grade.
That would make a huge difference. But what about the sheer number of beings? How can everyone see Amitabha all the time?
The sources explain Amitabha possesses infinite spiritual powers. He can manifest countless emanations, countless forms, simultaneously appearing before and teaching every single being in the Pure Land individually, perfectly suited to their needs.
It's a reality that operates beyond our normal concepts of space and time. Master Wuyi's summary sounds fitting, that beings there are neither ordinary nor sage in the usual sense.
Yes, his conclusion, as quoted, is that they defy simple classification. Everything is not, yet everything is. It's a paradoxical, wondrous state that reflects the inconceivable nature of Amitabha's Pure Land.
Okay. Now, the sources also address some serious negative actions, right? The really heavy stuff.
They do. They mention the 5 heinous crimes, like killing parents, shedding a Buddha's blood, causing schism in the Sangha, and the 10 evil deeds: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, idle speech, greed, anger, wrong views. These normally lead straight to lower rebirths, like the hell realms.
And they specifically called out idle speech.
Q.
Yes. Defining it as using attractive, flowery, or deceptive language, but with harmful intent. The sources even connect this to how some modern media songs, movies, shows could potentially create negative karma if they glorify harmful actions or feed the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance, Tanchanchi.
Which are seen as the root of all problems.
Right. Now, in terms of Pure Land practice, the sources clarify something important. While completely eradicating these root afflictions is very advanced, rebirth in Sukhavati is possible by subduing them.
Fuzubu kuzuyong.
Subduing them.
Meaning through focused recitation and sincere aspiration, you press them down so they don't actively control your thoughts and actions, even if the roots aren't fully dug out yet. That level of mental control, combined with faith and vows, can be enough.
This leads to that really controversial point. The possibility of deathbed rebirth, even for someone who committed those 5 heinous crimes or 10 evil deeds. This comes from the Contemplation Sutra, right? The lowest grade of rebirth.
Yes, and the sources are extremely emphatic here. This is not a loophole. It's not a license to do evil and plan for a last-minute fix.
It sounds almost too easy. Live badly, then just say the name at the end.
It's presented as anything but easy. The sources detail the incredibly specific and difficult conditions that must align for this vanishingly rare possibility to occur. It's almost miraculous.
What are those conditions?
First, the person needs a perfectly clear, lucid mind at the very moment of death. Think about how rare that is. Most people dying are confused, in pain, sedated, unconscious.
Okay, incredibly difficult first step.
Second, at that exact critical moment, they must encounter a genuinely good and wise spiritual friend, Shansushi. Not just anyone, but someone truly qualified.
Also rare. It requires good fortune.
Third, that spiritual friend must specifically teach them the Pure Land method about Amitabha and aspiring for rebirth. not some other teaching.
Very specific.
And fourth, the dying person must instantly accept the teaching without doubt, generate profound, sincere repentance for their past evil deeds, and recite Amitabha's name with complete focused sincerity, Juzu Shinyan. Even if it's just for 10 moments of thought or 10 recitations, that focus has to be absolute.
Wow. That's like threading a needle in a hurricane at the moment of death.
Exactly. It's an almost impossible confluence of events. The sources stress that if this happens, it's due to incredibly strong, hidden, positive karmic connections from past lives finally ripening, combined with Amitabha's immense compassion. It's not chance. Relying on this as a strategy is presented as utter foolishness.
A powerful warning. Okay, stepping back then, why is this whole Pure Land path itself often called a difficult-to-believe dharma, nanjinjin?
The sources say it's precisely because the promised benefits are so extraordinary. Buddhahood in one lifetime, starting from an ordinary state, non-retrogression instantly upon arrival, rebirth while still carrying karma, horizontal exit.
It sounds too good to be true compared to the gradual, arduous paths usually described.
Exactly. It bypasses so many steps that seem necessary from other perspectives. That's why it's hard for many to accept. The sources even mention that the Infinite Life Sutra, the main text detailing Amitabha's vows in Pure Land, is supposedly the only sutra the Buddha taught multiple times without being asked.
Signifying its supreme importance, maybe.
That's the implication, that it's the foremost method for saving beings, especially in difficult times. So the sources conclude, believing in this path is actually unusual. Not believing is considered normal. It's for those whose karmic conditions are ripe for this specific, direct approach. They contrast it briefly with, say, the vast, detailed stages in the Avatamsaka Sutra, showing there are different valid paths to the same summit.
Okay, and let's bring this all back home. Back to the start, dealing with distraction, finding focus, maybe transforming our lives. How does this ancient wisdom connect directly to you, the listener, right now?
The sources emphasize that true Buddhist practice, especially understanding and living the meaning of a present, recollecting the three jewels, cultivating awareness, right? Understanding, purity, nianfo, nianfeknen, niansung, is meant to bring tangible benefits. Happiness, clarity, success, harmony, peace of mind. Now,
Not just some far-off goal, but improving your actual daily experience.
right. So if you're engaging with these ideas, maybe you're reading texts or listening, but you're not feeling those benefits increase in your life, the teaching suggests you might need to look honestly at how you're practicing.
Am I just learning superficially? Am I actually integrating awareness, right? Understanding and purity into my thoughts, my words, my actions, moment to moment.
That's the crucial self-reflection. Is your thought focused? Is the practice changing how you live and perceive the world? It's not about a label, it's about the inner transformation.
True practice means those qualities. Awareness, right?
Huh.
Understanding, purity should be growing visibly, daily.
That's the core message running through these explanations.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive. We started with the Buddha's fundamental blueprint, the 37 aids, applicable to all paths.
Then looked at the common mental hurdles that sinking sloth and torpor, and the agitated restlessness and how practice reveals, not creates them.
And the absolutely central idea that everything arises from the mind, from focused thought. Thinking Buddha's the cause, becoming Buddha's the effect if the thought is pure and focused.
We uncovered the real meaning of recollecting the three jewels, cultivating inner awareness, right understanding, and purity, which brings immediate benefits.
Then we explored the unique Pure Land path, focusing on Amitabha, its incredible speed 10 kalpas versus 3 asankhya kalpas.
The guarantee of non-retrogression, even for ordinary beings, thanks to Amitabha's vow power and bearing karma rebirth.
The horizontal exit relying on Amitabha's reception, contrasted with the difficult vertical exit.
The wondrous life in Sukhavati, where circular integration means even lower grades mix with the highest beings, and Amitabha is always present.
We addressed the heavy karma, the non-loophole nature of deathbed rebirth requiring near impossible conditions.
And why the path is difficult to believe, precisely because its promises are so immense and direct.
It's a comprehensive look at mind, obstacles, and a very specific, powerful path to rapid transformation.
Offering both profound principles and a practical method.
So here's a final thought for you to carry away from our deep dive today. These teachings powerfully assert that everything arises from the mind or thought. Given the extraordinary potential described for those who truly focus their minds with pure intention on Amitabha, What might become possible for you right here, right now, if you applied that same principle of focused, unwavering, pure intention to your own most deeply held goals and aspirations? What could arise from your focused thought?